Hey everybody, my name's Dave and I'm from the ADHD Men's Support Group. I'm also an ADHD life coach as well, and I'm here to talk to you guys about RSD and depression, and why it affects people with ADHD much more than others, and why we feel it that way. So I first want to start off by describing of what RSD, what the Google definition that I found. RSD is an extreme emotional sensitivity and pain by the perception, by the perceived perception that a person has been rejected or criticized by a person in their life, particularly someone that they care about a lot. And it also may be triggered by a sense of falling short to meet their own high standards or others' expectations. So when we're talking about RSD, this is what it feels like to me when I get when RSD hits me. I feel like I'm getting an emotional punch to the gut, and like the wind has been knocked out of me. My stomach kind of collapses in on itself. The feelings kind of vibrate through my whole body. And why does this happen to ADHD people more than others? Because of part of our wiring, right? We have a more hypersensitive nervous system than a neurotypical person, so it hits us much harder. Also, we have been told to hold our standards to a neurotypical person, not a neurodivergent person. We're competing against others. Those others are apples, and we're oranges. So, recognizing that it's not about, for me, not recognizing that it's, holding myself to other standards, but what are my standards? And if my standards are too high, why am I being so hard on myself? Why am I trying to hold myself up to this? And it comes down to my own lack of kind of self-acceptance and self-worth. The acceptance that I have ADHD, the acceptance that I am okay, that my feelings aren't a bad thing. And it sucks too, because when you feel hard, when you get that sense of rejection and that sense of pain, it takes over your whole entire body. You stop thinking logically. You start feeling so deeply, and we're really deep feelers, and especially as men, we're told not to have feelings, but that's just not true. We have feelings, so it's recognizing where those come from, and that sense of rejection. I want to tell you a story of an RSC that hit me a while back that took me a while to get over. I was making videos very consistently, and a guy that I had reached out to me and had communicated with, nice guy, gave me some unsolicited feedback. And while the information he said was not incorrect, the feeling that I felt from it was so rejected and devastated that, oh, my videos don't have any value, and it just sent me on a depression cycle. So if RSD is that initial kind of gut punch, depression is the thing that keeps you on the ground. It keeps you as if it's like someone's emotionally kicking you all the time, and you just start to feel low, 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 and low. So, and it took me a while to get back to making videos. I'll be honest, this is probably my third or possibly my fourth take on trying to make this video. Because oh, it's not good enough, it's not this. And recognizing that it doesn't have to be perfect. I just have to go out and try. But when we're in that expression of feeling RSD and feeling that sense of rejection, learning how to kind of almost sit in the feeling a little bit, recognizing that this too shall pass. Our feelings are like oceans in the wave. They ebb and flow. One day you're really high, one day you're really low. There are neurochemicals that, particularly serotonin, dopamine, that really affect that. So knowing that, we can start to hack it a bit more and understand what we can do to go through it. But what I mean by sitting through it is removing the logical words of I'm worthless and everything. Where does it feel in the body? Allowing us to feel it and then let it go. Say, okay, cool, you're there. But instead of bringing ego up, particularly when we're in an argument and that really hits us hard, I shut down, and it can come out as an internalized RSD. I am worthless. I am a piece of shit. I don't mean anything. I don't have any value. I am worth less. For me, that is one of my biggest kind of things, is feeling that don't have any worth or value. External would RSD comes out as anger, or like you're pissed off, you start throwing things, and you're like, and you start lashing out emotionally, not logically out. So there's kind of difference between the internal and external. And then depression. The thing that I got on depression that I looked up is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness or unworthiness. And so when we're constantly, especially as kids, told that we're other, that we're different, that we're not good enough, that we're less than, it affects us. Or we see a huge list, like, I can never get that done. Oh my God. Like, that brings on the depression, right? And so the RSD can really affect our depression. And it's recognizing that it's that intense feeling of sadness, but it's that constant feeling of sadness that can lead to some pretty dark places. I'm a survivor of suicide attempts on my life because of my depression, because of my RSD. I don't blame them. I recognize that they are these factors that I have to work through to bring up my own self. Going back to the apples and oranges, one of the biggest things that it's so hard on social media as well, being a content creator or putting out videos or doing anything that you're really passionate about, we start comparing ourselves to the others. Like, if you want to be like, all right, I'm going to be the best basketball player, and you're like, you miss a shot, and then you're like, oh, I'm never going to be like Michael Jordan. No, because Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. I actually just saw this recent movie called Hustlers, Adam Sandler, and he has this line in there. It's talking to the guy on the court there. He's like, it's you versus you. So recognizing that what people say to, like, when we set our standards, it's us versus us, not us versus them, or the high standards that others set for us, or expectations. We have to learn to find our little wins and our little ways to succeed. So how do we come through? How do we handle our depression and RSD as they kind of arise? So as I said before, learning how to feel through it, learning to recognize that once that's gone, once we feel that, we can be left with that sense of like, I'm not worthy, and we have all these thoughts ruminating in our head. One of the ways that I get rid of those negative thought patterns and recognizing my own thought patterns is daily journaling, or daily videos, daily getting out everything that's in here out on something else, so I can make room for new thoughts. Because then you ever have one thought that's roaming around in there, particularly when we have that RSD, we'll start looking at all the negatives in the situation. Oh, I did this wrong, but what did you write in that situation? What was the positive that you can take away? It's so easy for us to look at just the negative, but what was the positive? What could I learn from this experience? How can I grow from it? When we learn that, like, especially when we get that sense of failure or rejection, that it must be on completely, oh, they must reject me totally. It could nothing to do with you. It could be something on them. What can you learn from the experience? And depression is a really tough one as well, because it's really hard to motivate yourself when you're feeling low constantly. You have no energy. You have no dopamine. Your serotonin's off. There's not enough stimuli. Things become so overwhelmed that you get into paralysis. And you're just like, oh, I just might as well not do anything. And so I'll go, and then you'll find something that will give you that dopamine and serotonin. One of the ways I do to help combat my RSD and depression is through laughing, to be perfectly honest with you. Laughing and exercise. Learning how to actually go, ho, ho, ha, 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 he, he. Why would laughing help with my depression and RSD? What we're doing is it helps trigger the brain. So after about 5 to 10 minutes of laughing, or even just holding a smile for 5 to 10 minutes, you're tricking your brain to think, oh, we must be happy. It doesn't care about your thoughts. It's like, oh, you're giving me the action signals, ha ha ha, smiles, to release serotonin, to release dopamine, to bring that out, so that will actually give you a natural high. Also, doing strenuous exercise, going to the gym, like You hate going to the gym, but once you're done, after you're in the gym, don't you feel better? That's, those neurochemicals coursing through your blood, coursing through you to actually kind of raise up your mood. And as people with ADHD, we have to manually control that. We don't have that automatic control like a neurotypical person. Recognizing that means that when I'm starting to feel low, I have to do things to get out of it. Or I have my partner like, hey, you're feeling depressed. Let's go for a walk out in nature. Nature for me is a great way to help me ground myself, bring myself back into the moment, and really kind of help center myself back. Another way that helps with my RSD in particular and my depression is recognizing my breath, particularly when we're in a heated argument and we're in tough conversations, and we're really feeling like I said, it's that gut punch, that emotional gut punch. So what happens to my breath? I start to breathe much faster, and my thoughts start to go much faster, and I start to go wah, 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 wah. But then I slow it down. Big breath in. Beautiful oxygen in. Slow, calm breath down. Bring ourselves back into presence. Feeling our body, letting go of the conscious mind. Focusing on our breath. Allowing us to be open to hear what the other person may be saying. Finding out what wins. Bringing in curiosity to like, okay, why do you feel that way? Okay, why did that hurt me so much? And usually for me, it comes down to previous traumas of when I was a kid, of being told that I wasn't good enough. For me, when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was the first kid in my school to be diagnosed with ADHD. And so it just made me feel as other, that I was not human enough, that I was less than. And that's not true. And, when I do get those kind of feelings, it's that feeling of unworthiness, but I have to recognize that I am worthy. And I have to tell myself that on a daily basis. I have to reprogram those negative thought patterns in my that were formed as a kid. That someone rejected you as a kid, and that will still linger with you because it formed a neural pathway of like, oh, so I must be a piece of shit then, or I must be unworthy, or I must be I can't be loved, and that's not true. Because the first thing that you have to start to do for me is learn to love myself and accept myself. And it isn't going to happen overnight. It requires therapy. It requires a coach. It may require medication as well to help balance out your neurochemicals. But it takes ownership and responsibility on our end to how to handle ourselves. Because I have this hula hoop around me. Everything in the hula hoop I can control. Everything out here, even if, people put like, tell me, oh, your videos are crap or you're shitty, blah, 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 like give me this negative feedback. I have no control over that. I have no control over the person watching this of how you feel or respond to this. I'm responsible of how I present it and responsible for my actions and my words. And I can't take responsibility for others. And I have to recognize how I can help myself. And I think when we're dealing with kids, in particular that have ADHD, that feeling of otherness, it happens so much as kids of like, we just want to belong. And I think that's the other big thing with people with depression and RSD and ADHD in particular, is we just want to feel that we belong, that we are a part of, instead of being apart. That was for me one of my biggest ones, of feeling that I am a part of something. And that's why I love being part of the ADHD men's support group. Feel like I'm a part of a tribe, a brotherhood that helps understand me. Having a good close group of friends that I can be honest with and vulnerable with. And then one of the things when we start to feel RSD is that, okay, then I shouldn't feel those feelings and we reject them completely, but we actually haven't dealt with the underlying issues. Our emotional pain, not transformed, is transmitted. So this is where when we're starting to feel something, it will be transmitted in other ways, through our addictions, through lashing out at others, through anger, through feeling that we have to take control back. And we start by taking control back with ourselves. I think this was a pretty good take. I would love to know your thoughts on how you deal with RSD and depression. What are your strategies and tips? Let me know in the comments below. Share this video to anyone who think that this may be helpful for. And I just want to say, I wish everybody a great, if not better day.